Hey folks, it's Fabrice. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about 5 quality of life changes I think would be nice to have in Ravenswatch. This list is purely personal opinion and for fun, and my main interest is for it to be relatable / entertaining for you. Also, I want to call out that Ravenswatch is in beta, and they've already made a lot of great, meaningful changes since I started following the game. I think it's going in a great direction, and Pastech has done a great job of slipping us appetizers while they're also cooking the entree in the kitchen. In summary, love the game. Good job, Pastech. And here are some excuses for why I struggled to beat Nightmare so much. It's not a skill issue, I promise. Let's get started with number 1. My first observation is that the day-night cycle can sometimes surprise you. It does have some warnings built in. You can look for the number of moons or suns left on the dial, and there are a few seconds of warning from music cues and map lighting, but it can still be surprising sometimes when an intense fight is going on. This is a pretty small issue, but maybe it would be cool if the final sun or moon could start blinking even before the lighting and music start changing. Again, not a huge deal. As for the dial itself, I like the immersion aspect of having an icon indicator rather than a digital countdown. It's also a common UI element in other games that use night-day cycles, so again, pretty straightforward and good, except when you're mid-fight with a Master Nightmare. During the boss fight, the sun and moon indicators disappear and the dial turns an ominous red color, and suddenly you don't know when the day-night transitions are coming. This is going to affect some heroes more than others, but I've been grinding Scarlet a lot lately, and it can be really frustrating when you finally stun the boss, and during the limited window to do damage, you abruptly transform. I also seem to be on a pretty consistent schedule because this happens to me multiple times in sequential runs. Parting thoughts on this, I think the way of suppressing the night-day cycle visibility makes sense in a character perspective way when you're in the boss fight. If you were in a cloud of darkness around a Master Nightmare, I suppose you wouldn't be able to have a good sense of time, but I think it's more frustrating than interesting. Anyway, that's my feedback on the clock. On to number 2. Number 2, bindings for different characters. This is a controls and UI change that's really not too hard to work around in the game right now, but it would be nice to have. Give us a drop down where we can select heroes and set default controls for them. For the record, I think this would be cool on some other games as well. I would love not to have to rebind, retool all the time for multis, double rebar in Risk of Rain 2 in case Hopu Games watches this. Some other characters would probably just stay default, but Monkey King's Empty Palm is kind of nice to have on a high prio keybind given how reactively strong it is. I think I actually played around with having it on my M2 when he first came out. Snow Queen's Ice Skating is fun on my M3 button, and I just hate holding shield on shift for Beowulf. I know that's arbitrary, but that's how I'm wired. In conclusion, if you want my undying affection, Pastech, this is a UI update that would give you a leg up on the competition for my esteem, which I assure you is highly sought after. Now, on to number 3. Number 3, make attacks that go through Intangible more obvious. You might not know this, but there are a couple of attacks that go through Intangible, including Spider Nightmare's Poison Field, Elite Lumbering Treant's AoE Slam, Master Nightmare's AoE Divide, and Tentacle Pool. There might be others I haven't noticed, but these stand out to me. I honestly kind of wonder if there's some code reuse going on. Maybe Spider and Tree abilities were built off of the Master Nightmare's abilities, and they weren't intended to have all the same characteristics. Personally, I think it can be a little challenging when onboarding to the game, and it would be nice if it were more obvious. It might also be that going through Intangible is better as a boss ability than for a regular creep, but anyway, it's fine as long as it's intuitive. Now, on to number 4. Number 4, improve aggro mechanics. If you've played the game for a little while, you've probably noticed that you can't interact with items like wells, keys, chests, or towers if a creep is aggroed on you, and dream crystals are harder to break open. That part of the mechanic is actually really healthy, because otherwise players would just kite around the map without ever taking a fight. Because interactables are locked, players are incentivized to confront and clear camps before taking loot. I really like this because in the past, when dream crystals were still easy to take while aggroed, players would never fight Dream Crystal camps, but just break them open and run away with the loot. This felt a little off, so Pastech patched it, and like I said, I'm a fan. But what I'm less a fan of is how far some of the creeps follow you. Sometimes you'll be waiting in front of an item while Monster New Zealand is slowly walking toward you, until it finally leashes and you're free to go. It also blocks your teleport, which is necessary, or else teleport would just be an escape mechanic. But sometimes it feels very bull in a china shop, where that whatever you do, something else you'd rather not deal with goes wrong and takes you away from your main objective. I'm not 100% certain what the best solution is. Maybe pathing improvements, monsters lose aggro if they're beyond a certain distance from you, or even decrease leash distance. I think this would significantly decrease player frustration in the last 2 minutes of a chapter before facing a boss. Number 5, Nuke Fanatic. Number 5 is a bit of a self-report, so I included some video evidence to support the feelings of my heart on this one. Coldest fanatics are the worst. Now, your experience with them will no doubt help you understand better than anything I could say, but in case you haven't had that experience yet, let me educate you. Fanatics often accompany some of the chunkiest late-game nightmare creeps: snake, spider, and tentacles. Each fanatic seems to have a timer that starts counting down after they've locked onto you. Initially, they'll just stare, but after the timer finishes, they'll charge in, slashing with their dagger. This has a larger AoE than you might think, and it's pretty hard to avoid without blowing a cooldown. Also, because of the lock-on mechanic, I suspect, they often get out of sync with other fanatics in the camp, so multiple fanatics will tag team you, charging in and forcing your cooldowns. Meanwhile, the local nightmare enemy will be lining up a power combo, and the situation can turn south very quickly. A funny thing about fanatics is that they don't have a stagger bar. The stagger bar is a small bar under a creep's health, which, if full, leaves them stunned on the ground for a few vulnerable moments. Most weaker creeps don't have one, but ironically undead hogs do, and they're considerably weaker than a fanatic. For creeps that don't have the stagger bar, they can still briefly be stunned by an impact, but they quickly recover and resume their attack. That's fine for marsh ghouls, but fanatics can quickly turn you into ground beef. Where this really matters is when the fanatics are paired with a more dangerous nightmare enemy, because they help cover some of the vulnerable windows these enemies have. Even if you stun the nightmare, you have to be careful about trying to dive in and inflict damage, because the fanatics will be back online quickly, ready to slap you 30 times from 3 different directions. Another issue is the duration of each of their engagements. Their slashing attacks come out in multiple quick slashes, and putting this into Scarlet terms, a leap or a bite isn't long enough to avoid all of them. Even when you meet one fanatic by herself, it still feels annoying to deal with because you're almost guaranteed to take some damage. Also, sometimes fanatics just back up and then slowly follow you around, which coincidentally keeps you from touching interactables or teleporting. They're actually power gaming the player, and that was really the last piece of evidence for me. These guys are just awful. They hate us so much, people, and it's only a matter of time before it comes to a head, and when that happens, don't say I didn't warn you. That's it for this one. Let me know if you enjoyed these examples or if I missed anything else that ought to be in here. See you next time. Alright, more pigs. Oh shoot. What is she doing in here? That's a thing. Another thing that's interesting about Nightmare is that you suddenly start mixing up different kinds of creeps. Like, what does this fanatic think she's doing being here? Like, this is a pig camp. But, you know, I guess when it's a Nightmare, they just do whatever they want. They hang out with whoever they want. Oh, shoot. This isn't great. I really gotta deal with her. Okay, that was good. Stun. Oh, perfectly mistimed. We just